Well, welcome back, everyone. Well, as everybody knows, today is February 29th. Leap year happens rarely. And something very interesting about this. It's also Rare Disease Day. And joining me is somebody I met many years ago, Daniel DeFabio. I think we first met at Boston Spa Film Festival years ago.
That's right.
Well, Daniel's a filmmaker, very talented director, and also this idea of rare disease hits him right at home with your son, Lucas. So first, welcome, Daniel. It's always great to have you in.
Great, thanks.
And let's just talk about Rare Disease Day first.
Sure. It's always held the last day of February, but this year the last day of February is a leap day, so it's all the more rare. Mm-hmm. And it's just an occasion to bring together people, lift up the voices if you have a disease in your family, or if you're a medical professional or a lawmaker that's concerned with these issues. This is sort of a focused attempt to push it a little bit more into people's awareness.
Gotcha. Now, these are diseases that you don't hear about every day. They inflict a very, very small segment of our population. Now, when I asked you this question before the camera started rolling, you were saying that it's like 1 in 7,000, or there are 7,000 rare diseases.
That's right.
Now, that sounds like a big number, but when it's against the population or the rarity of occurrence, it really does mean something else, doesn't it?
That's right. I think the threshold for qualifying as a rare disease is it affects 1 in 100,000 births or less.
Gotcha.
And so in the case of my son's disorder, Menkes disease, it's 1 in 250,000 births. And those numbers, though, with 7,000 conditions in a large population like the U.S., they start to add up. If you took the rare population only and made a city, I think they say it would be the 3rd largest city. No, if it was a country, a nation in the world, it'd be the 3rd largest nation in the world. If it were a U.S. city, it'd be the 10th largest U.S. city in the world, in the nation.
Well, I think it goes without saying that, there are certain things, and with technology developing the way it does, they can do prenatal testing, but there's no way to even know with so many of these rare diseases, even if it exists, correct? Until it's too late.
Right. So many people facing rare diseases face about 5 years to get their diagnosis. And in some cases, that's 5 years of treatment they should have been getting, and they could have. In some cases, there's a treatment, in some cases, there's not. In my son's case, we were diagnosed at age 1, and you really need to be diagnosed in the first 10 days of life. So,
which makes it practically impossible, right? You wouldn't even know to look for it, correct?
Right, unless there's family history, you wouldn't ever think.
Unless there's family history.
Yeah.
The example that you used was heartbreaking in a way. You're saying that, people who have a child, and that's a degenerative disease, so the life expectancy isn't that great, and then when they have a second child, they know to test because of the first child.
Right.
That's a rough way to learn that one, don't you think, Daniel?
It is, certainly. And you start to feel a little bad that we can't certainly all know everything. And even the doctors we deal with don't often know these diseases until we bring them to their attention. But once it usually doesn't come to your attention except for a very bad reason, which is someone you know is affected.
Discovering, right,
Yeah.
you discover it.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about Menkes disease.
It's a genetic disorder, which means for almost always boys, it's either inherited. 2/3 of cases are inherited from the mother's side, and 1/3 of cases are a spontaneous mutation, which my son is one of those. And without this properly functioning gene, they cannot process copper. And the body absorbs copper, metabolizes it, and who knew how important it was, but without it, you don't develop your muscles, brain, and hair correctly. So most of these boys, my son included, don't walk, talk, sit without assistance, and don't live very long.
I got it. Tough subject to talk about, Daniel. I hope it's not too hard for you. You were saying to me, but you can sense the emotions in Lucas, right? You can tell when he's happy and you can tell when he's sad.
Yeah, the great news for us is he's happy most of the time. Laughs all the time. He thinks his life is good, and that makes it so much easier for us,
Now today, there is by the time you see this actually, the event will have happened, but at Bowtie Cinema in Saratoga today, to heighten awareness for rare diseases, there are a number of families in our community whose children suffer from rare diseases different than the one that Lucas suffers
Yeah.
from. Correct. How many films are being, and it's a night of films about this, and we'll talk about your film in a second.
Sure.
But how many are there?
There are 5 local families and 5 films related to the diseases they are facing. And we put that together into one night of rare disease movies for awareness on today, Rare Disease Day.
And the event is sold out, by the way, so we're really just trying to help Daniel and these other families raise awareness for these rare diseases. Now, the film that you made, what's the name of the film?
It's called Menkes Disease, Finding Help and Hope.
Gotcha.
And I finished it exactly a year ago for Rare Disease Day last year.
Gotcha.
And the purpose was that when you get a diagnosis as bad as this, you read a little WebMD or the National Institute of Health, and the information is black and white, and it's dire, and there's no good news there. And I can't change those facts. But if I show you stories of people that have gone on to live 7 years, 10 years with their child, now it puts it into a context where you can maybe get past how horrible the diagnosis is and start to think about how are you going to live the life with your child. Because you forget, as bad as it is, you do get a good life for a period of time with this child.
Right.
So I think we've succeeded on that level. We've put that story out there. It's on the internet. People have found it. As of today, we just hit 10,000 views, which for a small patient population, I think is pretty good.
I think that's a wonderful way to tell the story, and I also think it's very valuable information. Now, in the film that you created, you used 3 examples, 3 families, right?
Right.
Tell us about the other 2.
There is a boy south of here in Germantown, New York, Graydon, and he, at the time of the interview, was 7, and unfortunately, just 2 weeks ago, I was at his wake. He passed away just 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And there are 3 boys, including my son, and the other was in Australia, Sydney area of Australia, New South Wales. And 1 month after finishing the film last year, he passed away just before turning 6 years old. So it's eerie, and you kind of knew it would happen, but now to watch the film, it's different. There's 1 survivor out of 3.
And how could you ever really understand that? You know, I don't think we're humanly possible to understand. You can say, you know, it's going to happen, and then when it actually happens.
I think the other families were brave, and some people didn't want to be a part of the movie, and I can completely understand why.
Yeah, sure.
I think they were brave, and I think they're even braver now. I know it's more difficult for them, and maybe they don't watch the film anymore, but it's definitely more difficult after you lose your child.
Well, I think you're very courageous, your wife, your whole family. You know, Daniel and I cross paths frequently, actually. He's quite the director, quite the producer, and we'll give a quick look out to the Mangino family because Daniel produced the spots at Ralph Mangino and Tina Mangino, and I was telling him before we went on, those spots are just fantastic. You know,
thanks.
You're really quite a filmmaker, quite a storyteller, and you know, hats off to you for all this, Daniel. It's really something.
Thanks.
And good luck tonight with this. Today is Rare Disease Day. Please do what you can do. Go online, explore it a bit, donate to the different causes. Some of these diseases are not the ones that they, as a matter of fact, all of them, and the rare diseases, you don't have a prescribed blood test up front. You can't tell, you don't know. But of course, the advances in medical technology are increasing those odds every day, right? That's something that you will catch it, that you will be able to find a way through it. Well, thank you, Daniel. Always great to see you.
Yeah,
and,
thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Sure.
To see this interview again, you can head to our website, looktvonline.com.